And then last but not least, I'm going to segue over to the Terence Crawford situation where he got arrested following his championship parade in Omaha, Nebraska. How about that, man? First off, let me know in the comments, for those of you that saw the fight between him and Canelo Alvarez, did you think that Bud Crawford was going to win? And were you caught off guard by the news of him getting arrested in his home effing city of Omaha, Nebraska, following the parade where he was given the key to the city by the mayor? All right? Crazy, right? Outlandish, right? Let's talk about it. So it took me a little bit to drop this video because I wanted to go through all the facts and really get my story straight. And we still have more details that have yet to come out. But yes, sir, he had a permit, and I'm going to get to that. If you haven't, go ahead and check out. I'll probably put it in the description in the comments here. But one of his people in his entourage, Coach Malachi Williams, was in the car with Bud, another individual, a family friend, as well as Bud's bodyguard when the traffic stop took place. And Malachi Williams said the official statement from the Omaha Police Department, the OPD, about what led up to the gun being pulled was not honest or accurate. The bodyguard in the car, he had a firearm on him on the passenger side, where it was visible. And what many people don't know is the bodyguard, as well as Bud Crawford, are well known in Omaha. The bodyguard actually works with the Omaha Police Department. And he specifically works with teaching courses on how to survive encounters with the police as a black man when pulled over. So here's my thing. And these are some of the questions I asked. And I want you guys to give me your take. And I'll go ahead and talk about the fight after I go through this arrest situation. I'll get to that, okay? But let me know what you think about these points that I was thinking about. Why didn't the police know who they pulled over? That's the first question. And I was asking these things to ChatGPT and getting the feedback. And here's what I surmised. So what was relayed to me, the officers may not have been briefed or recognized Crawford, who he was during the stop. And they confirmed the identity later. But given his fame, 41 million people saw the fight on Netflix. They know who Terence Crawford is, even outside of Omaha. And then he's a living legend in Omaha, right? He grew up there. He came up through the streets. And then he became something, made something of himself, and became a 3-time undisputed world champion, having multiple parades after many of his wins. And he just had a parade earlier in the day where the mayor handed him the key to the city and they were laughing and joking. So how did the cops not know who he or his bodyguard was? Because I would assume that many of the cops actually work with the bodyguard. So if you didn't know who Bud was, which that's BS, you definitely know who the bodyguard is. And when you rolled the windows down, when they rolled the windows down to talk to them before they pulled the guns because they saw a gun in the car, you were looking Bud Crawford right in his face. And you were looking the bodyguard right in the face. You know exactly who those guys are, unless those cops were new or living under a rock. So that's point number one. Point number two, why were guns pulled and pointed at them? Now, protocol, when you see an open firearm in the car, whether you have a permit or not, that's protocol. I understand that part, okay? But the part I don't understand is it seemed like they were having a calm conversation leading up to that point. Even if it wasn't 5 minutes into the conversation, even if it was a minute into the conversation, you're having a calm conversation with people you claim not to know. As soon as you saw the gun, if there was no yelling or screaming or attitude back and forth, why are you pulling a gun and then putting it about less than 5 feet away from Bud Crawford's head through an open window? Explain that part. That's point 2. That would exceed usual protocol and may constitute excessive force. I don't care what the situation was leading up to it, especially if you were calm. 3, the timing of the firearm discovery and the stop. When during the stop did they discover the firearm? Was it 30 seconds into the interaction, or was it a few minutes into the conversation? This part we don't know, but what we do know is that there's body cam footage, and then Coach Malachi also said, in addition to the video that was taken by the young lady that was sitting in the back seat on the passenger side, on the driver's side, the car is an electric car. And he said, although it's not a Tesla, he alluded to the fact that that electric car has video capabilities, meaning that they have extra footage of the encounter and how it happened. And although there are legal proceedings going on, and he got a message from Bud's PR team that, you know, don't say too much, he did allude to the fact that we got footage that corroborates our story and would possibly contradict what the OPD said in their official statement. So that's point 3. So I kind of tied the firearm and the body footage as points 3 and 4 together, but you get the point. So how do you not know who he was when you pulled him over? Why were guns pointed despite there being no reason to escalate? And 3, when did you see the firearm? And is there video evidence going to contradict what you guys said in your statement? We will see. So reading the comments, and you guys kind of, you guys know what's up. Rico says, welcome to the live stream, by the way. The Omaha Police Department knew exactly who he was. Bingo. OPP podcast says they knew they were having a parade or event for Bud. Exactly. So I think it's going to get real interesting in the next 1 to 3 weeks as more information comes out and their legal team gets their case together. But this is going to be a big thing to follow, and I'll update things as I get more information. But it smells funny to me, and I think it smells funny to all of us that are assessing the situation. So we will see. But one thing I do know is, no matter how big you make it in America, if your skin color is a certain hue, if you will, these are the things you're going to have to deal with. I've dealt with racism in my lifetime, and I'm not the only one. And a lot of us I've met good cops and bad cops. But there are certain tricks of the trade that you need to know that people who don't have our melanin pigment are not privy to. Oh, comply. You know, just do what the officer says. They wouldn't have got aggressive if you hadn't have done something. You guys must not have been black in America and got pulled over before. Otherwise, you would think very differently. When you get pulled over, I put my hands on the steering wheel. Some people put their hands outside the window, like Coach Malachi said. Because when somebody's giving you instructions and that person may or may not have your best interest at hand, a swift movement, even just to unbuckle your seatbelt or reach for your registration, can be interpreted as you being aggressive. And then all of a sudden, your family has to come and give a eulogy when they was just planning to have dinner with you the next day. These are the things that people who are not of color don't have to think about. And these are the things that have to be considered in cases like these. That being said, let me go ahead and go back to the fight, okay? And listen, go ahead and check my prediction video, and then check the video I dropped after the fight. And I'm going to put up a film study. I'm going to actually be working on it this weekend as I do my my film study for the Phillies as well. I'm going to drop my Phillies stuff tomorrow, but I'm going to be doing a film study for Crawford I'll drop on the weekend. And I'm going to put up some screenshots. I won't put their names in there. I'm not going to do that. But we're going to talk about the people that laughed at me when I said that this would be easy. And I'll give you one quote that I said back in August of 2024. And thank goodness that I saved the threads and I took screenshots. I said that Terence Crawford or Israel Madrimov would beat Canelo easily. And one big reason being because the boy ain't got no feet. Not literally. He has feet attached to his ankles, but he moves like he's planted in cement. That's what I meant by that. And I think people got so caught up in how strong they thought Canelo was, how much Canelo weighed, how much bigger than Crawford Canelo was going to be. They just did not consider, one, that Crawford is not a little guy like they thought he was, which I've been trying to tell people. And two, even if you got more power and all these things, if you ain't got no feet, you have a 80% chance of losing the fight, because if you can't hit what you can't touch, right? They said the same thing about Barry Sanders, but you couldn't touch the dude. His feet were way too fast for any of those defenders, just like Canelo's feet are way too slow for anybody who's not bigger than him, right? Like Caleb Smith or Berlanga or Jaime Munguia, guys that are just like straight up robots with their feet, straight up and down, no special effects side to side, they dare to be hit. But when you face Arislani Laura, when you face Floyd Mayweather, when you face Dimitri Bivol, when you face Terence Crawford, when you face Austin Trout, even though you beat him, those guys give them problems. So I'm like, this is the difference between people who've never fought outside of a schoolyard scrap or out in the backyard against other adults that don't really know how to box, and people who actually have been in a dojo, who have actually been in a boxing gym and have actually competed, whether in the gym and sparring or in tournaments or matches against other people as good as them or better. You don't know what you don't know, right? And I was having these back and forth arguments with these people. I'm just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And fast forward a year later, crickets. Don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but yet speak with so much confidence. Just had to get that out. But the main thing is the feet, okay? If you don't got feet, all your opponent's going to be able to do is step outside your lead foot if they're a southpaw and wear your ass out. Pause. That's it. It's that simple. It's that simple, bro. Among other things. Obviously, that's not the only reason, but that's a major factor. So let me go ahead and look at these comments real quick. OPP says, this is in regards to the traffic stop. Does not matter, being pulled over for nothing can scare you and be embarrassing. And like you just said, mess up plans for the day and any future plans. Facts. Exactly. Going back to, yeah, and then another one from Ty here, Slaughter Rico. He says, they know how Crawford keeps heavy artillery just to protect himself and his family. He has photos on the internet with all kinds of assault rifles and etc. Omaha is a very racist city. Very true. And it's separated. North Omaha, as Coach Malachi was saying, is where all the black people live at. I forgot what section he said the Hispanics are at. And then he said outside in the rural areas, outside of Omaha, is where it's mostly Caucasian. So once you get into Omaha, certain parts of the city, particularly North Omaha, that's where the African American section is at. And listen, they've gotten really strict in Center City with traffic stops, even though it's an open carry state. So make of that what you will. But like I said, going back to the fight, I thought that it would be, it turned out more or less the way I thought it would. I didn't think Terence Crawford was going to stop him. I think I said that in my video. But I did say that he had the X factor. I'm like, he has better feet, and he's just not a small dude like people think he is. Because I have not the same build, but a very similar build. I'm only like 5'9", but I have a 6'5" wingspan, right? So like, even when I spar, people don't realize how close they are within my reach. They think, oh, he's 5'9", so I can just sit back from range and snipe him. No, if anything, I'm gonna be able to touch you before you could touch me, because my arm reach is like Mr. Fantastic, and I have short biceps, so I don't have lanky arms. I have a short person's biceps with a tall person's forearms, and my legs are the same, so I get a lot of leverage in a way that people don't anticipate. And then on top of that, I'm very explosive with my movements, and I have reach. And I noticed the same things in Terence Crawford last year, or even when I was analyzing the Spence fight. So ever since then, I started thinking of these things. And when they announced the fight with Canelo, I followed Canelo since he fought Mayweather. So I knew everything I needed to know about Canelo. And then looking at Crawford, the things that I learned about him over the past few years, I'm just like, this is going to be tough for Canelo. Like, people can't see it, but it's a 60-40 fight in Crawford's favor. The only reason this fight is close is because we don't know if Crawford can take the punch. But if he can take the punch, I just did not think that Canelo was going to be able to beat him. So that's what it was for that fight. But that's what I think about the fight, the arrest situation. I'll say more as we get further updates. And beyond that, let me know what you think about the Eagles and the A.J. Brown situation. Are they going to get things cleaned up going into Week 5 against the Broncos? And let me know if you're ready for Red October and how you feeling about this NLDS Game 1 against the man, the myth, the legend, Shohei Ohtani. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.